Welcome back to the things you missed in Shadow of the Erdtree, my friends. Today we shall be covering Lower Rauh in our ongoing task to 100% absolutely everything we possibly can before breaking Miquella's Great Rune. We'll start by heading south, and later on in the video we will also be covering the plateaus to the northwest and northeast. This is an episode I have been particularly excited to release, as there is some incredibly awesome loot here that is easy to miss. So make sure you pay full attention and don't skip anything, or you could miss out on your new favourite weapon or Ash of War. And as we get into it, by proceeding south towards the map fragment for the area, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. On your way down, just past the two stone golems, as long as it is nighttime, you can loot a Larval Tear just here. And slightly further southwest from this, you will see a sealed spirit spring. So head south up the cliff and you can break the seal at the end of this cliff. Now double back on yourself and jump up the spirit spring that you have just unlocked. There is absolutely nothing of note on this level of the mountain, so head up and jump up the second spirit spring. Now you want to head directly south towards the Nameless Mausoleum. As you enter the northern Nameless Mausoleum, prepare for one of the tougher NPC boss fights, as the red bear is very erratic. And the bear claws themselves have particularly long combos that it is hard to break him out of. So you might want to play this fight a bit cautiously and be sure to never run out of stamina, because he can be a bit of a bastard. And once you have defeated him, you will get the Fang Helm along with the Iron Rivet armor set, and of course, most importantly, the Red Bear's Claw weapon. And before we head back down the Spirit Springs again, the first few times I explored this mountain that we now find ourselves upon, I was so surprised that this mausoleum was the only thing of note up here. I was so certain I must have missed something. However, after scouring this whole area for countless minutes, I am so sure, apart from a few crafting materials, this mausoleum is literally the only thing of note here. So as we're making our way back down and proceeding further south into Lower Rauh, I would just like to say it is such a shame that a few areas in the DLC do appear to have been underutilized, and there are huge swathes of land with very little on them, with this mountaintop being the perfect example. Anyway, rant over. Now that we find ourselves in the town temple ruins, firstly just head all the way to the south and you can grab yourself a revered spirit ash. Now head back towards the town ruins, and through the hole in the wall just here you can enter into the town. Next, once you've climbed the stairs, double back on yourself and make sure you defeat the sparkly jar enemy. Then make a trick jump over here to get a Erdtree fragment. And finally, once you have either dealt with the horned warrior up ahead or just entirely ignored him, make sure you don't forget to open the chest to acquire the incredibly powerful two-handed sword talisman, which increases all damage done by 15% when two-handing your weapon. This is a gigantic increase and just makes it significantly better than other similar talismans. Now that you've done all that, feel free to grab the Sight of Grace right here. And now, as I'm making my way over to the next few missable things, I just wanted to bring up something really weird that happened to me, in case anyone in the comments may have any idea why this has happened. As you'll have just seen from the start of the video, the 2 stone golems right at the start of this area weren't there. That is because off camera I just spent an hour killing every single enemy in this whole entire area to make sure I could go through and collect everything completely uninterrupted, so it's a nice smooth experience for you. Obviously, I'm fully aware if you rest at a site of grace, if you teleport, or if you do anything like that, obviously it's going to respawn all the enemies. However, if I had accidentally done that, and that was the case, the stone golems would have been back. So I am absolutely baffled as to why these kindreds of rot have respawned. It makes no sense to me. I'm now wondering, is it a distance thing? Is it because I've gone so far away from their spawn that it considers me to have rested at a site of grace or teleported to a different area, and therefore they've respawned? This honestly was so bizarre and frustrating, and not something I have ever seen happen before. Anyway, now that I have broken line of sight and I've got out of combat, let me just deal with this grave bird, and now I can open the map and show you this spirit spring. Once you've jumped up here, you'll see some really minor loot, including a chest, which also contains even more pretty minor loot. I'm going to ignore that. Feel free to grab it if you wish. The only thing we care about is hopping over to the other cliff. And once we run through this tunnel, we can come into this building, open the chest, and snag one of the most powerful spirit ashes in the game, the Vine Bird Warrior Ornis. There's now just a few more things left to do in this area, and then you have finished almost all of Lower Rauh already. So hop back down the spirit spring, and I'm now going to mark the last few activities we want to do before we then progress to the northeast and northwestern plateaus. So now jump back down and just keep sprinting towards the northwest, ignoring all the enemies if you wish. And right at the top of this cliff, you can loot the Gravebird's Black Quill Armour. This has the exact same effect as the Raptor's Black Feathers, enhancing jump attacks. However, it is slightly lighter and slightly weaker in terms of its damage negation. However, it does look cooler. Therefore, if you do have a jump attack heavy build and you prefer fashion over substance, then I would definitely advise switching to the Black Quill Armour over the Raptor's Black Feathers. And as you've just seen, you can jump down to the north and defeat this scarab for the Ash of War. The poison flower blooms twice. This is an insanely powerful Ash of War that I won't dwell on because I've already covered it extensively in my preview videos. Anyway, now you want to head northeast and you can find another sparkly jar enemy, and he will quite unwillingly give you the Antiquity Scholar's Cookbook 1. We are done here, so just keep heading northwest until you can get this Site of Grace. And just before we move into the second part of the video, I'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to anyone who has been kind and generous enough to bless my channel with a super thanks. This is a fairly new YouTube feature that allows you to give a one-off show of support to your favourite YouTubers. It's an absolutely fantastic way for people who don't want to commit to the recurring monthly subscription of becoming a Knight of Dom's Roundtable, but would still like to go above and beyond and thank me for the hundreds of guides that I've put out over the last few years, which have hopefully helped you become even better at some of your favourite games. And finally, it's a great way to make sure that your comment definitely gets read, and there have been some incredibly sweet and amazingly hilarious ones over the last few weeks. One of my favourites was when someone said they had to donate after hearing me say to smash the crystal stuck up the arse of the forge columns to kill them faster. Anyway, rant over, my friends. I just wanted to thank you so much for supporting the channel in such a wonderful way. Now I've gone ahead and set up the markers for the northwest of Lower Rauh. As you can see, the entirety of the right-hand side of this area is completely devoid of anything of note. There's a few minor bits of loot around there if you do want to run around and grab it. But this is another example of a very, very empty area. So now that I've got my waypoints down, let's start heading towards number 1. This is where you can loot the gloried attire along with the rest of the leather armor set. And you will also see the Great Bear Regalia. Again, this series is about missable things, and as you're already here to loot an armor set, it's pretty hard to miss a gigantic red Rune Bear boss. So I will run past and ignore him. Feel free to kill him if you want. All he drops is a new Rauh spell. Once you've defeated or ignored Rugalia, keep heading southwest, and just on top of this giant lovely dung pile is the Greater Potentate's Cookbook 8. And finally, you want to keep heading directly south into the Scorpion River Catacombs. The main things to look out for and loot while you are here, in no particular order, are the new Spirit Ash for Black Knight Captain Hugh, along with the Ancient Dragon Knight's Cookbook 2. You can also get a new spell, the Knight's Lightning Spear. And one of them all-important Great Ghost Gloveworts. And then finally, at the end of the dungeon, once you defeat the Death Knight, you will get his Long Haft Axe and the Cerulean Amber Medallion +3. That's it for all the notable loot in the Scorpion River Catacombs, so I'll meet you back at the first Site of Grace for this area, and we will check out everything missable in the northeast. This area is even quicker and easier than the last. Aside from Taylew's Ruined Forge, which we will cover at the end of the video, there is only really 3 things of note here. As you can see, there's a big old lake in the middle of the area. Feel free to go and explore that at your leisure. For now, you want to start by heading west over to this small Mesmer soldier camp. And in the chest, you will get the Pearl Shield Talisman. From here, just keep heading slightly north and you'll see a big fight between a load of demi-humans and Mesmer soldiers. Thankfully, these ones didn't respawn, so I can just run through grabbing all of the loot, including 10 Sacred Bloody Flesh. A brand new, particularly powerful consumable item, which boosts your physical attack power and your arcane, and then further boosts it when blood loss occurs. Very unique and very powerful. And then finally, before you move on, make sure you hop on top of this hill and also grab yourself the Shadow Realm Rune 3. Now we'll run through this lake, grabbing the few crafting materials. If you choose to kill all the Blood Fiends here, one of them is guaranteed to drop his weapon. From memory, it's the Blood Fiend's Sacred Spear, if you are interested. For now, I'm going to keep heading east and pull out my ranged weapon of choice, so that we can shoot down this hanging scarab. And once you've defeated him, you'll get the Ash of War Scatter Shot Throw. Now all that's left to do is head north into Taylew's Ruined Forge. This, I personally feel, is the most straightforward of all the forges, and the 5 things you are on the lookout for whilst you are here is the Smith Script Axe, the Smith Script Great Hammer, and the Smith Script Shield, along with an Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. They're the 4 things you can loot. And then finally, when you activate the forge at the end, you will get a second Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone and also Taylew the Golem Smith's Spirit Ash. Once you have fully explored the Ruined Forge, you are now completely done with the entirety of Lower Rauh. So in the next episode, we will probably proceed to the Cerulean Coast. I think that would be the next best area to explore. Then there is only 2 things left for us to do before we are forced to break Miquella's Great Rune. But as you can see, you can do so much of this game before you need to do that, and make yourself exceptionally powerful before you have to face any of the main bosses. And with that, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.